This is where we're up to, I think, in talking about our little object-oriented language. Right at the end of last time, I introduced the idea of inheritance, which is controlled by the parent class. The parent clause, sorry. And what goes in the parent clause is the arguments you would give to instantiate, to make an instance of the parent. So in this case, I want the parent to be a person. And if we back up and see what a person looks like, person has name as an instantiation variable. So I made Pigger also have name as an instantiation variable. This is sort of the formal parameter part for Pigger. And this is actually a reference to that variable. So this isn't, it's only by coincidence that the word name is a variable in Pigger and a variable in person. I mean, it's not a complete coincidence, obviously, because I'm using them for the same purpose. But what I'm trying to say is that what you put in here is not necessarily, even though it is this time, exactly what you see up here. It'll be person and then some expression whose value is a word. That'll be the name of the person. Okay, so this is how parent works. You can have more than one of these in a parent clause. I'm not going to show you that in lecture because setting it up is easy, but figuring out what it means is hideously complicated. Smalltalk, which started object-oriented programming, does have multiple inheritance, but pretty much every object-oriented language since then has given it up as a bad idea. And the reason, well, I'll show you the reason after we see how inheritance actually works. But basically, in certain situations, it's hard to know which parent you meant to use for a particular purpose. Okay, so the question really is, how does it happen that even though Pigger doesn't have an ask method, I can ask PP I can send it the message ask, and it finds the method in the person class, which says, let's go look at that again, sorry. Here's the ask method. It says, ask self, say, would you please, and the argument. That's what it says to do. And that's what happened down here. We said, Udwe uye is play, atne a play, aims gay in a ask play, which is just what persons do when they're asked to ask something. We put would you please in front of it. But the interesting thing is, even though we found the method in the person class, this say message is still handled by this say method, the one in the Pigger class. And that's why it comes out in Pig Latin. So how does that happen? Well, it happens like this. Here's PP. It's an instance of the Pigger class. It has a name, which is Porky. It has methods, Piggle, and say. But it also has something else. It has sort of a hidden instance variable, my person. And the value of that variable is a person. Now, persons have name, which is also Porky, and they have methods say, ask, and greet. Oops, no arguments. Okay? So this is what a person looks like. This is what a pigger looks like. And because I said parent person, our language created an actual person object, an instance of the person class, which is sort of buried inside this pigger. So I send the message, ask, not play games in class, to this object. So this object says, do I have a method called ask? No, I don't. Ah, but I have a parent. And it just sends the message to the parent. Okay? But remember I said there's this special variable self that methods can use? Like ask self such and such. Well, self is not actually an instance variable here. Well, no, I'm sorry. Yes, it is. Let's put it in. Self. For this pigger, self points to myself. Okay? If I just said instantiate person, it would have a self that points to itself too. But I didn't. I used person as the parent of another object. So its self points to the original pigger. So when this ask method says ask self to do something, it looks up self, and it doesn't find this object, it finds this object. So when it asks itself to say, would you please not play games in class, we're using this say method, which overrides this one, because this is the object we're talking to.